In a small warehouse in Kansas, an audacious inventor named Michael Marcum set the stage for an experiment that flirted with the edges of science fiction. With nothing but salvaged equipment and a vision that transcended the ordinary, Markham embarked on a journey to unlock the secrets of time itself. His creation, a vortex of energy pulsing with the promise of time travel, stood as a testament to his ambition and ingenuity. But the path to discovery is fraught with unexpected turns. One moment Markham was on the brink of unveiling the mysteries of the universe. The next, he vanished, leaving behind a trail of questions. For years the world wondered, what happened to the man who dared to manipulate time? Did he leap into the future, or did he find himself lost in the books of history? As rumors swirled and speculation grew, a glimmer of hope emerged from the silence. Markham reappeared, his tale one of displacement and discovery, a narrative punctuated by a mysterious absence, and a return that raised more questions than answers. Armed with a new machine and the knowledge gleaned from his mysterious journey, Markham was ready to leap once again. But as he stood at the threshold of another journey through time, the world held its breath. Would this leap unlock the secrets he sought, or would it plunge him deeper into the unknown?
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Deceptive Reality Podcast. My name's Nick, and with me today is the Bricky Bird. Any guesses?
Well, some people say I'm square. I consider myself more of a rectangle kind of guy, but that's me.
Oh, well, a brick would be rectangle.
Definitely rectanglish. I'm wearing red like a brick.
Oh, it's true. You came prepared even though you didn't know.
I'm a brick house.
Do you want to know what it means?
I have zero clue.
Well, bricky means you're strong and courageous. Although I don't know why a brick is courageous, but we'll go with it.
Super courageous, Nick.
Super courageous.
You don't even know. I feel like I need to come up with a word for you, but you put a lot of effort in. I don't.
There's only so many words. We can't both use them up.
That is true, golly, because we'd fly through them, Nick. Not only that, kind of lame. Listen, my dialect does not provide me with a lot of words, and let's be honest, if I have to try to enunciate some of these words out, it's not happening. Okay. Trust me.
We all got our own strengths. That's all right. That's all right.
I was doing that podcast on Esther Cox this weekend. Y'all have some screwed up names in Canada. There was one that I tried like 19 times. And finally, I'm like, we're just going to call this a community and keep moving.
There are some weird place names here, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Good night. The Amherst was easy, but there was one that looked like a French name, and I'm like, not happening.
Can you think of roughly what it is? I might be able to help you.
I think it was like LA something, like La something, or something like that. I know I looked at it. I listened to an enunciation thing on it like 5 times, and I'm like, not happening.
Like, was it Lockport or?
Is it what?
Lockport?
No. It was way more complex than that. It was way more complex. Like we're in a different realm. It's where she was from. So apparently she wasn't directly in Amherst in the beginning.
Okay.
And she was in a different spot. Let me see if it says here at the beginning. Nova Scotia is where she's from. Oh, you know what? That's the one where I took it out and I'm like, let's just put community.
Something like was it an L apostrophe something else, like L'Acadie or something like that?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
yeah, it was something like that.
Anglicized, it's Acadia, but in French they say L'Acadie.
I think that was it. Yeah. Yeah, I was like, that's not happening. That's not happening.
Well, you don't see that much in English, really.
Yeah,
we don't really do that. I
listened to the enunciation 5 times, and I'm like, my mouth's not going to do that. I'm sorry. I'm just dumb American. That's not going to happen. So, hey.
You guys don't use that much. Well, actually, I mean, you have like Louisiana, which is French, right?
Heck if I know, Nick, listen, I can barely pronounce my stuff. Louisiana, I can pronounce that.
Yeah.
But only because it's here.
Let me tell you some fun facts then you might not know.
Canadians about to teach me something about America. This should be
good. Yeah, I am. Well, like we just talked about, Louisiana's got some French people, right?
Yes.
And what do you call them?
French people.
You don't call them Cajuns?
They do have Cajun, yep.
Yep. So Cajun is sort of like a mixed up word for Acadian.
Okay.
Which is l'Acadie that we just talked about.
Okay.
And they got to America because when the English took over Nova Scotia, we had something called the deportation, where we sent all the French people out of the province.
Oh, wow.
And the ones that went down south were Acadians who, because you guys had trouble pronouncing their thing, become Cajuns.
Clearly, yeah. We see, it's not just me, Nick. It's a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, it is. It was a whole bunch of people. So Acadians become Cajuns, and Acadia is l'Acadie, which is what you were just looking up.
Let's be honest. When you look at the two of us, folks out there in the interwebs and the listening folks on the listening machines, I think it's become very obvious who the smart one here is. Okay, listen, I'm the entertainment value. Entertainment value. Listen, Nick, he's a, and it's a good thing he's the smart one, because we're going to be doing a whole bunch of science stuff today.
Well, you say that, but anyone who's listened to our moon episode is going to know who the real science whiz here and the guy who's just a poser, which is me, by the way. I'm the poser.
AI was the smartest one. Yes, it dumbed it down for me. You are correct, Nick. You're correct.
The robot's always helping us.
I said, please write this at a high school level. And now I looked at it again. I said, all right, write this at an 8th grade level. Okay. And then I finally figured it out.
Write it at a level that Nick can understand. Okay.
I still would have had to drop it a couple levels, Nick. Now, inadvertently, today's episode is mine. Nick has no clue what's going on. He kind of has a clue.
Nope.
But he doesn't. Nah, we talked about it a little bit. You've just forgotten.
I have.
That said, you are the sole purpose that we're having this one tonight, Nick. Did you know that?
Oh, so if there's a problem, I've brought it upon myself.
You really did.
Is what you're saying.
This is 100% you.
Oh, geez.
Let me explain to the folks at home what happened. So for anyone that doesn't know, in October, we did what was known as a listener segment of the Deceptive Reality podcast. And what we did was we allowed you guys to provide stories that we read, and then we dramatized, and then we added sound effects and music, and it was awesome. Nick said, and I quote, I think this was off air. I don't necessarily think he said this on air, but he said, I would really like this to be like Art Bell's show called Ghost to Ghost. And I'm like,
oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I've said that a number of times, actually.
Yeah, I said, absolutely. And then I got off air and I said, who the heck is Art Bell? Art Bell? Who is this guy? Is he a producer or something? So I go and I look up Art Bell. And then I was like, well, if we're going to imitate him, I need to know what his show sounds like.
Right.
So I listened to the Ghost to Ghost. I listened to like three or four. I think I listened to like 3 or 4 different episodes that he had. And those are long. The segments that you hear online is like 2-3 hours usually. Good nighttime listening. You got to go to sleep, but you don't want anything too deep. Art Bell. And one night, in which I'd already kind of got the concept of how we was going to do our podcast, I was like, you know what? I'm doing this edit for our videos because I edit our videos. I said, let me just put old Art Bell on in the background. And this episode came on Art Bell.
Oh, so what we're talking about tonight was on Art Bell. Oh, it was on extra excited now.
Yes.
Extra excited.
He took a call in. No, I'm sorry. This is how old this is. He received a fax about a story, and then he located the guy in the story.
Oh, interesting. Detective work there.
Yes. So while I was listening to this, I said, that's interesting. And then I found myself listening to it versus doing the editing. So I went back and then I finished my editing. I went back and listened. But this story is, I can't go too deep because it's going to screw up this story since y'all don't know what this is. But it was such an interesting story and such an interesting character. I said, we have to one day do an episode on this. And here we are.
I like how you became gradually over time a big fan of Art Bell.
I have.
Because I do remember the arc in this series. Like you didn't know who he was, and now you mention him probably as much as I do, really.
Probably. I've become a huge fan.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting because I did reach out to the Art Bell community on subreddit.
Oh.
And I said, I'm doing this podcast, and anyone that has information, if you could reach out to me, maybe provide me with something that I don't know. And I had 3 people reach out with information that is amazing.
That's all I can say right now.
That's all I can say.
His community comes through.
They really did, because the Art Bell community is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, since I've set this up, you have to understand, for everyone that's listening and everyone that's watching, this is a story, and we're going to provide this story from the beginning until what we know today.
I love these ones so much.
So this will not be one where we're talking about a concept and we're moving on. This is simply a story from beginning to end. Very much like our Circleville letters is how I'm going to put this.
Oh, well, that was a popular one too.
That was a popular episode. So hopefully this one will intrigue everybody. Everyone will enjoy this. The $1 million question is, Nick, do you at least want to know what this story is all about?
I have much curiosity. So yes, please.
In the heart of the 90s, a time known for rapid technological advancements and a culture of garage inventors and DIY enthusiasts, Michael Marcum, later dubbed Madman Markham, stood out as a figure of curiosity and determination. A young man in his 20s, Markham was not your typical inventor. Markham's background was as unconventional as his pursuits. Far from the conventional laboratory, Markham's laboratory was his porch. Here, amidst a labyrinth of wires, transformers, and homemade circuits, Markham embarked on a journey not just of scientific discovery, but of personal quest. A quest to peel back the layers of reality as we know it. Surrounded by spools of copper wire and magnets of varying sizes, Markham's immediate project was a Jacob's ladder, an endeavor that initially sought nothing more than to marvel at climbing arcs of electricity. But for Madman, a small Jacob's ladder would not do. He envisioned a modified Jacob's ladder, one that could potentially explore the realms beyond the conventional understanding of electricity and magnetism. He knew that he needed a high-voltage power supply to achieve the iconic climbing arc, so Markham set out to build his own transformer. The standard household voltages here in the United States were not going to cut it, and he knew it. He began the process of coiling wire, with the idea of increasing the voltage from a standard 120 volts found in a house to a staggering 20,000 volts. For the climbing rods of his apparatus, Markham utilized wire hangers, a testament to his resourcefulness and the DIY spirit of the age. In pursuit of a more reliable method to initiate the arc, Markham turned to an innovative solution: lasers. By using laser emitters from an old CD player, he aimed to heat the air around the conductors directly, thereby lowering resistance and ionizing the air without the need for manual intervention. A very curious observation changed the course of his experiment. A sphere of distorted air, barely able to be seen, almost reminiscent of a heat mirage, hovered above the device. It was odd, unexpected, and unexplained.
What is that? That's something new.
Markham reaches into his pocket and finds a few sheet metal screws left over from building his contraption.
I wonder what would happen if I threw this at it.
With a mixture of curiosity and caution, Markham threw a sheet metal screw straight at the distortion. The screw disappears in midair.
Ooh, that kind of scared me when he threw that thing in there. I wasn't expecting that noise.
Nick's like, oh man, be careful. Be careful, madman.
Be careful. I was really into it though, because it's like the starting of all those 80s adventure sci-fi movies. Like,
yes,
I can picture that. It's the middle of the night. You can hear the crickets out there, and all of a sudden he's come across something he's patched together from a bunch of things. And then the scary noise.
The scary noise, Nick. Here's the interesting thing. First off, we should probably explain for the folks that do not know what a Jacob's ladder is.
Oh, yeah.
I'm assuming you know, Nick. You're very smart.
Yeah. Do you want me to say the basics of it, or?
You can, if you want to. Okay. Absolutely.
Basically, you've probably seen it in movies. It's two sort of metal poles going up, and they call it Jacob's ladder because it looks like the electricity is climbing in lines up it. It gets to the top and it dissipates, and it keeps doing that over and over again. It's always in like old-fashioned horror movies and stuff like that.
Correct. Probably the best demonstration of that I can think of is Frankenstein.
Yep.
A lot of times they will use a Jacob's ladder when it comes to anything that has to do with Frankenstein.
Is that electricity in there dangerous, or is this like a non-dangerous?
It'll kill you. It'll 100% kill the life out of you.
Man, this kid shouldn't be playing with this thing.
You have no clue. So for anyone here in the US, and I'm not sure what it is in Canada land, Nick, I'm not sure. Do you know what your standard voltage is? Inside your homes?
I don't. I'm sure most people do. I personally don't.
Like here in the States, it's 120 volts. That's our standard.
Yeah, we use the same everything that you do. So that's,
Okay, so Canadian land and here in the US, 120 volts. That's the standard. Now, to make a Jacob's ladder, you have to have higher voltage for what he was doing. Anyway, I believe this first one, in which I think is going to cover it in the narration a little bit later in, I think it was 18 inches total. So we're talking, a foot and a half. So a foot and a half big Jacob's ladder, not huge. You got to remember, he was using clothes hangers to make the arms.
Yeah.
So,
and what was it? CD lasers from CD players for the young folks who haven't grown up with that. Is how we used to listen to music.
It was the only way. And if you got a scratch on the CD, that wasn't the beat. That was literally what the CD sounded
that's
like.
Dark times, let me tell you.
Very dark times. I used to have a car, and there used to be a thing called skip protection. Mine barely ever worked correctly.
Skip protection was skip delay. That's all that was. It would buy you a couple more seconds, and then that's it.
Correct. Yeah. I actually, I'm kind of embarrassed admitting this, but we're going to anyway. I used to have a system in my car, and I had to go to cassette because it would hit so hard it would skip my CD player.
Well, cassettes are where it's at anyway. We talked about that a little bit, I think, before.
It was, but for bass, it did not hit quite as hard as CDs do. CDs had a lot more range than what a cassette had. Unfortunately.
That's true.
But he, as you can all probably tell, he was a scientist, a backyard scientist is what we're going to call him. And he created this Jacob's ladder using the clothes hangers, and then what Nick was talking about, the laser from the laser or the CD player. What he figured out was you had these arcs, and depending on how far apart these arcs were, you would not be able to get the voltage to go up there. In addition to that, extremely dangerous to try to get that started. So what he figured out is, hey, you know what? I can use this laser, which in return will drop whatever they phrase it as, like density or I forget what they call it. All the smart people, they call it something, but it drops it down enough to start the Jacob's ladder. And I think they even keep it on just to keep it moving. But he figured this out. He's like, hey, I can totally do this on this size of a Jacob's ladder. So he's doing this and he's somewhat failing. He's having some issues trying to get this thing going to the degree that he wants to get it going.
Right.
And as he's looking at it, he looks and he goes, what is that over top of this machine?
Like a semi-transparent bubble, I think it said.
Basically, yeah. The way he explained it was like a heat mirage. For anyone that's drove down a road and it looks like water and like steam coming off the road, that's basically what he was seeing in the air. So he's looking at it and he goes, what the heck is that? Now, you have to understand also, we was talking about this earlier before we got on off of our sidetrack. To get the voltage stepped up, because he was at 120 volts, he was taking the wire and he was creating a transformer. So basically, you're just constantly winding until you get what you need. He took a standard 120 volts and turned it into 20,000 volts of electricity.
Yeah, that sounds pretty dangerous to me. I can see how this might go awry.
A little dangerous. So you have to think to yourself, if he was to touch this thing, he's DEA dead. Dead.
I guess, yeah.
But
so you throw stuff at it instead.
You throw stuff at it. And I believe the way that it was explained, now you have to understand the information I received is from multiple sources. Most of it came directly from the interview.
Okay.
So I took as much of that information as I could get. And then I found other sources to fill in some of the blanks for some of the things I don't have. So as much as I would love for this to be 100%, some of it might be speculation. I don't know.
Well, that's we deal in a lot of speculation. That's not a big deal. It's not like any of our other cases.
We deal with a lot of speculation. So don't come at me if you heard something different. Anyway. So he's looking at it, and the way it was explained, and this wasn't, I don't remember him saying this, but the way someone else explained it was, he was just curious what it was. And he was like, well, I'm just going to throw this bolt at it and see if it like goes away. Right? Almost like smoke. Like if I throw this at smoke, it causes a dissipation. He's got a very curious mind, obviously extremely intelligent. And as he throws the bolt, I think he assumed for it to go through and dissipate, and it disappeared in midair.
Right. Yeah. See, I wouldn't expect that either.
Yeah, he totally did not see that coming.
Although I guess I'd be like, it disintegrated. And
he did
I better turn this off.
That according to the notes, he did speculate that. At first, there was really only a few different conclusions, which we're going to cover in the next segment.
Right.
But that was one of them. So
I'm getting the impression that's not what happened, though.
Well, we don't know. We haven't got to that segment yet, Nick.
That's what I'm betting on. I'm putting my chips on don't know.
Ooh, there we go. That's solid. But what makes this, and I think the way that most of us probably would get confused, myself included, is we think of everything in terms of, well, this product was created. No, he made this product. So who knows really how dangerous this thing is? And like some people would be like, it's not going to vaporize it. It's 20,000 volts. Okay.
Man, where's his parents?
He's 21. He was 21.
Oh, okay. All right. He sounded younger in this.
Yeah. No, he was 21 years old, had his own house.
Okay.
And he put everything on the back porch. That's where he had everything in the beginning when it was only 18. This 18-inch Jacob's ladder was on the back porch. So again, kind of interesting that this is what happened. But what a way to start. What a way to start the show. We started with fireworks right off the get-go.
Yeah, this I'm hooked. It's reeling me in. I want to know what he's discovered.
Well, and that's where this becomes fun, because there's really a lot of things that we're going to discover as we go by.
Okay.
And again, what I'm trying to do is get this to the point to where we start asking a lot of different questions, because I think it was last week that we was talking about, you know, some of the things that we look at when we're doing these episodes are things such as the Philadelphia.
Right.
Right. The Philadelphia Project. When you think about the Philadelphia Project, and maybe we'll cover this in a different episode, so I don't want to go too deep into it. There was a series of things that they started doing that in return caused things to teleport.
Right. Right. We're sort of playing Battleship with this. We're hitting near the Philadelphia experiment, but we're not covering it yet.
Yes. That's exactly what we're doing. We're going to have covered here soon. This will be the second time we've talked about the Philadelphia Project back to back. So we're going to have to cover that at some point. But I think what makes this one so interesting to me is this is just a regular guy that's like, man, I want to build this Jacob's ladder. I don't want a little small one like I typically see. I want one that's at least 1.5 feet tall. I'm going to make this thing. He looks at it, he goes, not enough voltage. I'm smart enough to know how to increase the voltage. Then he makes it, and then he starts playing with things, and then he accidentally falls into a discovery, which all science, technically, there's a good probability that they ran into it by mistake.
Yep. I'd say most of the best things were probably mistakes. And yeah, that's a good example of that. Yes. That wasn't a purposeful thing there at the time.
X-rays. X-rays was 100% by mistake.
Yep. And that didn't quite turn out how people who invented it hoped, I think, but
no.
In the end,
but
real good.
Look at the medical history and the achievements that we couldn't have done without X-rays.
Oh yeah, we don't do, like, you don't go to the doctors for very many things now without getting an X-ray.
Correct. Everything is an X-ray.
Or something that come from it.
And what they was trying to do was basically, they was messing with photography stuff, but because all those X-rays, and do you know what X stands for?
I don't.
So what was the X-Files? No, why was it called the X-Files?
I thought it was just unknown, X unknown.
X is unknown.
Oh, is that what it is?
Unknown rays is what it was supposed to stand for.
Wow, I did not know that. That's something interesting to learn.
Look at this. The dumber one of the two of us is teaching some stuff today.
Dumber. I know next time I go to the doctor.
Nick.
I'm trying. Next time I go to the doctor, I'm going to be like, you're going to shoot me with unknown rays? You can't do that.
My buddy Bert told me this in a podcast.
Yeah. He's an internet scientist. Like, why wouldn't I believe him?
He's played a scientist on TV, for goodness sakes.
Yeah. Yeah, he told me the moon's not real, and he told me about X-rays. What more can I ask for?
I don't know how it could possibly go bad after you tell him that, Nick.
Yeah, I know. Well, probably I won't be seeing that doctor anymore, I guess.
My guess is you might need a new doctor at that point.
He's like, I can't treat this, man.
Yeah. We've went too far. His buddy Bert may need psychiatric help.
Yeah, they won't treat me, but they're sending someone for you.
Special for me. There used to be a day and age. I think when I was coming up, I don't know if this is true. This might be false. But I think they used to send vans to people and throw them in vans and put them in rubber rooms and stuff.
I think some of that still happens, but I guess they used to send them out with little nets to catch you too. But I don't know if that's true or not.
Do you remember
this
that song?
This is speculation.
Coming to take me away, haha.
Yeah.
Coming to take me away, ho ho. To the funny farm where life is wonderful all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I can tell you one thing. I know for a fact. Padded rooms still exist.
I didn't think they existed when they said they existed.
Oh yeah, yeah. They absolutely do.
Wow.
Like people who they're concerned are going to harm themselves, they put them in those rooms. So protect them a little bit. Yeah.
Who would have thunk? Well, obviously we know this screw disappeared. Do you want to know
where the screw went?
Michael Marcum tried to do to figure out where that screw went?
I do. I hope it's not reach into the bubble.
Michael Marcum had just witnessed the inconceivable. A screw, thrown into a seemingly ordinary distortion in the air, had vanished. What had happened to the screw? Had it been annihilated by the mysterious forces at play, or had it merely slipped from view, obscured by the energy field he had unwittingly created? Then, as if the universe itself conspired to answer his silent query,
how is that even possible?
the screw rematerialized and clattered to the ground, a mere few feet from where Markham stood. Driven by a blend of bewilderment and an insatiable hunger for understanding, Markham embarked on a series of repetitions, each one a mirror of the first. He threw the screw into the vortex, only to watch it disappear and reappear. Was this device, this accidental creation, capable of teleporting objects, or even, dare he think it, manipulating time itself? The machine, overwhelmed by the demands placed upon it, finally stopped. The once vibrant lasers dimmed to darkness, and the heart of Markham's creation was stilled, leaving behind nothing but the charred remnants of his ambitious endeavor. The ruins of his experiment were not the end of his journey, but a beacon, illuminating a path forward laden with endless possibilities. He wanted to build it again, but this time bigger, more powerful, and he knew just how to do it.
I just pictured like Tim Allen, Tool Time, more power.
More power. When I was writing this, I don't think people understand. When we put these narrations together, I get so excited to write this stuff. It's so hard for me not to put little things like that.
Yeah.
It's hard because, and in some of these narrations, you will hear my personality come out because I'm like, this is just too good to not put in here.
Yeah. Sometimes you can't help it.
Oh man, it's just so good. But when I wrote that part, I'm like, this reminds me of Tim Allen going through the think about it. Tim Allen throws a screw and he goes, oh, more power.
He's dumping in bags of screws at a time. So I got a question before we go ahead, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I need to know this.
No, you're fine. 100%.
He throws a screw in. Does it reappear in the same place or nearby?
Here's the thing. It happened a couple, they said between 2 to 5 seconds later. So not a lot of time went by.
Right.
So he throws it in the first time. He's confused. He's like, where did it go? So I'm assuming, like everyone else, he's looking around and then click, 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 click. And it said it landed right in front of him.
Okay. Did it reappear in the same location though? I guess that's. Or do we know
where he threw it?
Yeah.
It landed. Yeah. So he threw it in front of him and then it landed right back where he was.
Oh, okay.
Roughly.
Okay. I was trying to figure out if it was appearing in like random places on the deck or something like that, you know?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Nope. They were all directly in front of him.
Okay, good. Because that would have been super dangerous. Like he throws a screw in there and it appears in the middle of his chest or something like that. That's what I'd be concerned about.
It'd be like a bullet at that point.
Yeah. Like it's never good to have a roofing nail or whatever it was in the middle of your chest.
Exactly. So he throws it up, zaps, 2 to 5 seconds later, click, 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 comes back. He does this 2 to 3 times.
Okay.
Every single time, the same end result happens. Throws it up, small pause, falls down to the ground almost in front of him.
Interesting.
So the first thing I think, if it's me, let's say I'm Madman Markham and this story's true. Let's just say it. Not saying it is true. Not saying it's not true. I'm saying, let's for a moment imagine that everything is true.
Okay. I'm already imagining that.
Science, and I'm a man of science, 21 years old. I throw the screw up and I go, A, it didn't move the smoke.
Right.
B, where did the screw go? C, okay, there it is. So that's how that would have worked.
Right.
The first thing I would have thought is I imagine that. If it's me. I totally imagine that. Something happened. The second thing I would have thought in my pea brain, okay, maybe somehow it hits this cloud and there's magnets. It's like It's almost like it gets stuck in the air and then it falls down. That would have been my next thought.
Well, that's a reasonable one because coiling the wire makes electromagnets as well. So
correct. So if I would have thrown it up, the second time I would look and said, does it happen again? If it happens again, the third time I'm going to look and see, is it stuck up there and then it's falling down?
Yeah.
The second time I'd been like, did I see this disappear? And the third time I would have pinched myself first. I'd said, ouch. Okay, definitely here. And
this
then
is really
I
happening.
would have thrown it again. Exactly.
Right.
And every single time it would disappear. And then a couple seconds later or a few seconds later, it would fall down to the ground. After the third time, lasers go completely out. The lasers are cooked.
That's so disappointing because I would have so many experiments to do.
But think about it. He's just like me and you.
Yeah.
First off, no one's going to believe. Like, he can't go to work the next day and be like, guys, guess what? I made some screws disappear.
Yeah.
Like, no one's going to listen to him. Like,
he can't even film it with his cell phone because that doesn't exist.
Correct.
Terrible.
And he's 21. He doesn't have a lot of money. Best case scenario, he's got an instant camera or some form of a 35 millimeter camera. You're not getting film from that or video from that.
No.
So how do you even prove it?
You'd have to show people. You'd have to bring them there and show them.
You'd have to do it. But here's the thing. I think he's scared to let anyone know. Now, why is that? Well, he's already doing something dangerous. Let's say a buddy of yours said, hey, Nick, hey, I created this device. I want you to see I'm making screws disappear. And you're like, what? You're like, yeah, come on over. I'm going to show you. And then you get there and he goes, now listen, I didn't tell you this part. I made this and there's 20,000 volts circling through this. It's a little dangerous. Stay far, relatively far away.
Right.
I'm probably not going on that porch.
I'd go.
I might watch from another room.
No, I'd go there. I'd just make sure he's always closer than I am. Like,
Valid.
Like if it don't get him, it ain't gonna get me.
Valid. I give you that.
But I'd be there in a heartbeat though. Like even if I didn't really believe him, I'd be like, well, I got to see this.
That is true. Hey, that's smart. You're right. I'm probably not going to disagree with you.
No, I'd be there.
Now he's sitting there and he's thinking, you know what? We did that with an 18-inch Jacob's ladder. I need to make a bigger Jacob's ladder.
That's where he and I would differ. I want to repeat this one. I still got things to throw in there, like mice. Like I throw a mouse in there. I'd poke a stick in there, like all this kind of stuff.
Electricity, it'll kill you instantly, Nick.
Well, not this screw disappearing machine part. Like that just makes things disappear and reappear.
But he's throwing it into the electrode, the thing above the electrode. What happens if it hits the electrode? Which is what he initially thought happened.
There must be sacrifices for science.
Well, he's determined that he wants to build a bigger one.
Okay.
Do you want to hear how he comes up with this concept?
Yeah, for sure.
We have to know where he's going with this. We kind of know where he's at.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see
like I
where
said,
he's
I'm
going.
already showing up. I'm ready. Let's do it.
Let's see if you're willing to show up for this next one, Nick.
Okay.
The next step was obvious to Markham. His 18-inch Jacob ladder was good, but an 8-foot-tall Jacob ladder, much better. Scaling up was a formidable challenge, yet not insurmountable in Markham's eyes. The physical components could be enlarged. Bigger conductors and more powerful lasers were within reach. The true hurdle lay in the power required to breathe life into this behemoth. The leap from 120 volts to 20,000 had strained his resources to their limits, and the homemade transformer that facilitated this feat was a casualty of its own success, burning out after a brief taste of what was possible. The ambitions for his time machine necessitated a power source capable of sustaining 50,000 volts or more, a demand far beyond the capabilities of ordinary equipment. The kind of power Markham needed was typically harnessed by the Transformers perched atop power poles, guardians of the grid, both inaccessible and astronomically priced. Undeterred and driven by a mix of ingenuity and desperation, Markham set his sights on an unconventional solution. In a utility company's yard, neglected and succumbing to the elements, lay 6 industrial-grade transformers. These rusting giants, once the backbone of substantial electrical operations, now lay dormant, their potential untapped. Markham saw not just the decay of what was, but the promise of what could be. The decision that followed was fraught with risk of foray into the gray areas of legality and ethics.
Well, I get where he gets his name from. This guy is a maniac. Like, this is super villain stuff almost, or I don't know, like crazy doctor.
I love this guy.
He's interesting. And he's decided it's a time machine at this stage, I guess.
You know, we talk about putting our personality in this.
Mm-hmm.
And you could tell in this section, I put at the beginning because though I was thinking Tim Allen,
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking if Tim Allen was to write the segment, 18-inch, good. 8 foot, better.
Yeah, I'm going to change my answer. Let's do this episode as if we're like this guy's buddies and he's inviting us over for this. At this stage, I'm like, have you turned this on before? Is this the first time you're turning this on? Like, I'd come around for the second time, I think, not the first.
Well, let's put it this way. He's only came up with the concept. He hasn't done anything yet.
Well, he's got his eye on some industrial transformers, though.
It's the same ones that's at the very top of telephone poles.
Yep. Yeah, I was thinking that.
Now, to give you an idea, these transformers are huge. They don't look big when they're up in the air. But when you got them on the ground, those transformers weigh between 180 and 300 pounds.
Those are the things that are exploding in videos you see during storms and stuff like that.
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
Danger. I'm a little afraid of electricity.
Not Madman Markham. He looks at that and goes,
no.
Power.
He's like, what could possibly go wrong? I'm young, invincible.
Go wrong.
I'll be fine.
Go wrong. Correct. Nothing could go wrong here. Everything's fine.
Okay.
So he's got this 8-foot idea, concept going through his mind. And he goes, I can't wind that much cable. And even if I did, it wouldn't be sufficient enough. I need, without a shadow of a doubt, this transformer. I need at least one transformer.
Yeah.
He knows where 6 are laying. And he says, I mean, I got to get them here.
Well, no one's using them.
No one's using them. Listen, they're rusting out there. I love, and the analogies that I used for this, I didn't invent that analogy. Okay.
No.
That was analogies he gave. He says, and let me see if I can find his exact wordings because I laughed when I was typing this up. He said, neglected and succumbing to the elements.
Yeah, he's justifying it. He's justifying it.
He's like, listen, we can breathe some new life into these things. They can now have a purpose for the greater good.
Oh, it's not like he's going to break them. He can bring them back if they really want them.
Yeah, listen.
Like,
if they need them, they're not using them now.
Yeah.
Now, each one of these transformers are like $15,000 to $20,000 each.
Well, it's just rotting on the ground. No point in having that.
But if he takes one, let's just say $20,000. $20,000.
Yeah.
That's $20,000 that he's technically acquired.
Right. And that makes it a felony, at least in Canada. That makes it a felony.
That is definitely here a felony.
Yeah. So he should take them all. In that case.
If you're going to do it. But here's the problem. They're 300 pounds.
Right. I just take them one at a time. No problem.
I mean, let's think about this the way that I think about this, Nick. Let's say, and you would never do this, nor would I, if you were a criminal and you said, you know what? I'm going to steal these things. How would you do that, Nick?
Wheelbarrow.
Okay. Listen.
Wait, how far away is it? How far away is it?
It's a little distance. That's a long way with a wheelbarrow.
Oh, okay. Oh, pickup truck.
That's genius. When would you do it?
Broad daylight with a safety vest on and a hard hat.
Wow, that's solid. That is actually, I didn't think of that. That's genius, actually, Nick.
Yeah, I'd have a ladder
too. This is why you're a smart one.
Well, I mean, you do it in the middle of the night. Something's up. You do it in broad daylight with a hard hat. Maybe you have a clipboard with a pen. Then you're doing it for a reason.
That's solid.
Yeah, maybe I'll put a little sticker on the side of my truck. This is electric company.
That's solid. I would have done it in the middle of the night, and I would have done this the whole time.
Yeah, that's real suspicious.
That's listening, not watching. I'm looking around.
That's real suspicious, okay. Bert.
Now, would you do it by yourself? What if you don't have a truck? What would you do?
Oof. I don't know. Rent a truck.
I mean, you probably have to rent a truck. Right?
Yeah.
Should we see what he decided to do?
Oh, is it going to be like a trebuchet or a catapult or something? Or like he is mad.
This is not the crop circle episode.
Okay.
Where they used a freaking pole to jump into the middle of the crop.
Man, I don't know what this guy's going to do. He's crazy. I'm curious though. Let's hear how he does the crime. We've heard how we do the crime. How does he do the crime?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure his way is solid. This is why I love this guy so much. Let's see what he does.
Oh, boy.
Michael knew where the Transformers that he needed were, but he didn't have the means to get them. He was missing a couple things. First, a vehicle that could carry the large Transformers, and second, the strength needed to get them into the trucks. Even though he lacked those two things, he had something even better. He had friends who owned trucks. He rallied a group of friends, each as committed and intrigued by the potential of his vision as he was. Together, they devised a plan not under the cloak of night, but in the broad light of day, to acquire the necessary Transformers. Equipped with not just one, but several pickup trucks, the group embarked on their mission. Each vehicle, typically seen as a symbol of everyday utility, was transformed into a chariot of innovation, destined to carry the components of a potential time machine back to Markham's workshop. The convoy of trucks and the unity of purpose among the friends underscored the scale of their ambition. As the trucks made their way back, laden with the hopes and dreams of a small group of visionaries, there was a palpable sense of crossing into uncharted territory. They had ventured beyond the limits of conventional science and ethics, driven by a shared belief in the possibility of transcending the known boundaries of time and space.
Scared myself on that one.
Yeah, I know. That guy's got a head for science and crime.
He does. He kind of has this down.
Yeah.
He's kind of got it down. My favorite part of that entire thing is when I wrote, he didn't have any of these things, but he had friends that had all these things.
He's got friends in low places.
I've got friends in Transformer stealing circles.
Well, this works with what I said we should imagine, that we're his buddies. So we're like, yeah, we'll go help you acquire these things.
Exactly.
Bert's got a truck. I got a truck. We'll go just like scoot them right up on there. Have them back for dinner.
Think about this, though.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of friends would you have to where, let's say I'm Madman Markham.
Right.
Are you telling him the very first moment that you get him on the phone, or are you like, hey, I need help moving something. Can you be over on Tuesday?
Which would I do?
Which would you do? Would you be like, hey, buddy, I got these Transformers in the middle of this utility company yard that I need to have brought back here? Or would you say, hey, I need something moved. Can you be here on Tuesday to help me? Oh, bring your truck.
You ever seen Goodfellas?
I have seen Goodfellas.
You know, Polly would never use the phone. If you wanted to talk to Polly, you got to talk to Polly in person.
That's right. You have to.
So I'd go see my friend because I don't want this on the phone. I'd be like, I got some business we got to do. Didn't want to tell you on the phone.
He's already being like Polly. We got some business to do.
That's right. This is like a business for us, you know?
It's a business transaction.
And Polly don't have his business on the airwaves.
He does not.
That's right. So
when I was
Polly.
writing this segment, I was like, what's your friends have to be like? Like, are you tricking them? And because he had multiple. It wasn't just one friend.
Right.
He got a few to come along.
Wait, you wouldn't help him?
Let's put it this way. And this is the way Bert's mind works.
Okay.
Let's say he didn't tell me and I got to his house. And let's say I was dumb enough to not ask. Because if it was me and he's like, hey, I need you to come over on Tuesday, help me move something, I'd be like, cool.
Right.
We need the truck? Oh, yeah, no, we definitely need the truck. Oh, cool. What are you moving? Like a sofa? Like a chair? What are you moving? I'll tell you on Tuesday. Red flag. Right there's your first red flag. Listen, before I come over with my truck, like, are we talking dead body? Like, what are we talking? Because Bert is not an accessory to a crime. Okay. Not an accessory.
Excluding dead bodies, and kidnappings and that kind of stuff. I would way rather someone ask me for crime help than to move their furniture because I hate doing that.
Valid, yeah. But think about it. You're doing something worse. You're acquiring a transformer that weighs almost 300 pounds.
Yeah, it's like 6 of them. No big deal. I can lift one of those myself.
I mean, Nick's strong too. Look how strong he is.
I'm an ox, man. But there's only 6.
Freaking ox.
Let me just say, someone calls you to help move. You get there, they don't have everything packed. You're there all day long. You're moving stuff that's awkward downstairs. You got to pivot couches around corners.
That's true.
I'll pick up these Transformers any day of the week.
I'll never forget. I moved a series of times and my buddy John helped me out every single time. God bless him. John, love you to death. You're my boy.
You are a sucker. No, just kidding.
One day he was like, man, I just bought this new house and it's in the middle of wherever he's at, which there's not a lot of things out there. Can you help me move? And I'm like, you know what? Heck yeah, I will. You've helped me move like 3 times.
You should have got him going first and be like, heck no.
Well, I get there and I figured out one thing really quickly with my buddy John. When John helped me move, a lot of my stuff, listen, I didn't have a lot of money. Okay.
Right.
I like things that's pressed wood. Okay. John is more of a natural material kind of guy.
Right.
So I look at like little end tables. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. It's going to be like 15 pounds, you know, it's going to be something light. Like 70 pounds because he got solid oak things. I'm like, God dang. And
he's like, yeah, we got to move my marble box spring.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Like he had all heavy things. And some of it was upstairs. I'm like, God dang, son.
Oh, no.
And then the new place that he had, we had to move so much stuff upstairs. And I'm looking at the series of friends that we have. And I said to myself a couple times, thank God that guy's bigger than me because that would not have made it upstairs. I'm pretty sure that would not have made it. There's a couple times where we was going up the stairs and I was, every time I'm like, man, I really don't want to be at the bottom of this thing because in the event that something goes south, I'm going to die. This is solid wood. This ain't pressed wood. It's not going to WWF bounce off my head and explode. Okay, my head's going to explode. Vastly different. So, you know, I think about these Transformers and I'm like, I'd almost rather probably move the Transformers because at least that's
what I'm saying.
Versus
and this
something
is like
the
6 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just going on his porch. Easy. Yeah.
Well, these ones won't go on his porch because they're too big. These are big Transformers.
Yeah.
Can't put that on the porch. Yeah. Porch isn't that big.
Right. But still, I think we've both decided we're going to do the crime. We're helping
Nick
our
is
buddy
definitely
out.
going to do the crime. Bert definitely is not.
We'll just keep telling you that it's just they're his. He bought them.
I mean,
Yeah, don't worry, Bert. He bought them.
Bert asks
I
a
saw
lot
him
of
change.
questions like, did you get a receipt?
I saw him pay for them. No, he couldn't. It was an under the table deal.
Then I would ask a question like, okay, well, what's the name of the guy that sold it to you so I can talk to him? Because Bert's not
Bill
moving.
Stetson, but he left town.
Because here's the thing. We know these things are $15,000 to $20,000 each. And Bert goes, I wonder how much prison time that is if I get caught.
Same as if you move one.
That is true. That is valid. But you know what it's not equal to? If Bert moves none. It's like significantly more expensive.
Bert, what kind of life are you going to live if all your friends go to prison?
What kind of podcast would I have if I was in prison?
That's
how I
true.
look at
That's
this.
true.
This is valid. You could be doing this show by yourself right now, Nick.
Right. Well, I could call you. I can use my one phone call to call in once a week.
one podcast a week for 15 minutes.
Yeah, you got to tell me the story quick.
15 minutes. So there's this guy and he has this. Could you imagine? Good night.
Yeah, no, that's quite expensive. You know what, though? If they've been laying there a while, he might have found that someone would probably let him have them. Like, you'd be surprised. You'd be
These are big
surprised.
Transformers because they're dangerous.
Yeah. I don't know.
My favorite part is during the interview that he had with Art Bell, he's talking about it with Art and he goes, you know, these are the same ones that's up on top of telephone poles. And Art goes, well, how would you get them? And he goes, yeah, I didn't really want to climb up there and get one. I'm like, this guy was going to take one off a telephone or a
it's a
light
good
pole
thing
if
he
had a
found
chance.
those.
It's a good thing he found them out in the yard. He
really.
saved his own bacon on that one.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. Nah, you know what? I don't know if I'd really help him. I'd think about it.
Well, in this case, his friends have not said yes. But he's got the idea. He's got the concepts.
Right.
Do you want to find out what happens? When
I bet they help
talks
him.
to his friends.
Weeks of anticipation and hard work culminated in the unveiling of Michael Marcum's next iteration of his machine. With the newly acquired Transformers now tethered to the grid, cutting-edge lasers in position, and the modest wire hangers replaced by formidable 4-foot-long, half-inch metal rods, Marcum's creation was no longer just an experiment. It was a leviathan of his own making. The initial test was a moment fraught with expectation. As Markham initiated the machine, a cacophony of sound heralded its awakening, a loud crack followed by a spark that seemed to tear through the silence. But then an unexpected quiet fell. In his quest to breach the unknown, Markham had inadvertently brought his local power grid to its knees. Undeterred, Markham delved into the heart of the machine, tweaking and adjusting its components. His persistence paid off. Soon, he managed to harness the beast without plunging his neighbors into darkness. The machine roared to life, stable at last, creating an energy field of vortex that defied all expectations. This new vortex, a few feet wide, was a sight to behold. But its beauty belied a new mystery. Objects sent through this swirling gateway no longer reappeared after their brief disappearance. They were gone, seemingly erased from existence. The implications were staggering, each vanished object a testament to the machine's unfathomable power. One afternoon, in a moment of lighthearted speculation, Markham and his friends gathered around the vortex. The conversation turned to the limits of the machine's capabilities. What if something larger than a screw or a metal shard was sent through? The air filled with laughter as they eyed the couch, jesting about sending it through the vortex. Yet beneath their laughter lay a vein of serious curiosity. Their laugh was abruptly interrupted by a knock at the door.
Uh-oh.
Which also reminds me, for anyone that's super confused, we did find out that they went to go get those Transformers. What you guys don't know is that we had a glitch during one of those transitions. And I forgot where we was in the story until I just looked at it. So we already knew that he had the freaking Transformers.
Well, I mean, it kind of worked out because it was like he ended up with them, so he must have got him to to join in.
Must have got him. Well, we definitely heard it in the other part. They went during daytime.
Right, I remember that.
Daytime to go get him. So,
which is why I was like, exactly.
Because this is exactly what you're talking about.
Act like you belong there. Act like you belong there.
So he gets back. His friends drop off all the Transformers, and now he starts building. He kind of has the concept down. He has the idea, and as he's sitting there and he's piecing it together, it's a few weeks later. Because listen, we went big scale. We went 8 foot. He starts getting it going, and now he starts throwing stuff in, and they disappear, and he waits, and now they're not reappearing.
I figure he's sending them further. They're reappearing somewhere, but not there.
Further in time or further
in
distance?
Space. Like the re-entry point is farther away now. That's what I'm guessing.
Got you. Because of the size? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But the other thing I'm thinking is, who's paying for all this power? Is that like the knock on the door? I'm like, that's the power man for sure. He's like, you need to pay this now.
It's Jehovah's Witness, Nick. They come to talk about things, man.
They're like, I don't know how many toaster ovens you got in there or how much toast you need, but you've used about 10 years of power right now.
Well, my favorite part when we're talking about that section, now he's got friends that come over, right? We've made it to that part, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So his friends come over and he's talking about, it's like, hey, I built this thing. So when we talked about his buddies and how they wouldn't go out there, now they're out there and they're looking at this thing. They're not outside anymore. They're inside the house, but they're looking at this thing. And they're like, yeah, dang, it's 8 foot tall. It's like, yeah, I keep throwing stuff in there and it keeps disappearing. I don't know where it went. The last ones, the screw would just fall right down on the floor. And while now this is significantly bigger. This thing is 8 foot tall. And they start looking down at the couch and they're like, we could throw something bigger in there.
You know what I'm thinking now is I had to clean my fridge out on the weekend. I would have been so good if I could just launch things into the Vortex. But basically, I like the line where it's like, yeah, and the friends were just gathered around the Vortex. It's like it's become a part of their normal life now. This is King of the Hill, but one of them's a genius.
That's what I was getting ready to say. It reminds me of King of the Hill where diddly old dango. A bear over here and got some dango. Boom hour.
Dangle Vortex.
He's sitting there, he's like, gosh dang it, Bobby. The Vortex sucked up the couch again.
Stop throwing propane into the Vortex, boy.
I'm here to talk to you about your propane needs. Propane and propane accessories.
I love that show. I hope when they bring it back, there's a Vortex.
I hope so. That would make it full circle. But you're right. It's funny. They're all just chilling around this thing, just looking at it. And they're like, hey, what can we throw in there? Well, what have you thrown in there so far? I threw some screws in there. I threw a baseball in there. Did I put what he's thrown in there so far?
Well, I think you mentioned screws and pieces of metal, and that's about it.
Okay. So at this point, that's kind of what he's thrown in. He hasn't really done anything too big. But, buddies come over and they're like, oh, is that all you've done? What about this couch?
Yeah, I was wondering, are they really going to throw the couch in, or?
They debated it while there was a knock at the door.
Oh, okay.
They were debating it.
Oh, hopefully it's a couch salesman then.
Now that does tell me a lot of things. We talked about how dangerous the last one was.
Yeah.
And how you probably should keep your distance.
Right.
How are you going to get a couch in there?
I don't know. I assume that they've decided that this isn't dangerous because it sounds like they're leaving it on and they just sort of gather around it. It's like hang out around the Vortex, throw their beer cans into it.
That's true. Listen, but this is why I add sound effects, because feasibly, when you think about this, you're like, you do that. But when you add sound effects, every single time it'd pop, it go like this. I go, what's that?
Oh, I know. I've had some bad experiences with electricity. I'm not going to get comfortable around this thing.
I had one bad experience with electricity, and it was enough for me to know to leave electricity alone.
Yeah. You only usually need one lesson with electricity.
Yeah, very valid.
It makes you remember.
It does. It's amazing how it does make you remember it.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe this isn't something I should be messing with.
Right. And I have a feeling if you accidentally like slip on something and you fall into this, probably the world's largest Jacob's ladder there's ever been.
Oh, for sure.
That you're not going to remember it because you will be atomized.
Correct.
Sent into the shadow realm.
Here's the other thing we've never talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So he's firing this bad boy up, and all of a sudden he has a brownout in his neighborhood.
Yeah. Was this the same day that he tried it again? Couldn't have been, right?
No. This summer.
Okay.
It took him like a week to build it.
Right. I figured. Yeah.
And then he tried it, and then some more time went by, and now his friends are coming over. But here's my thing.
Right.
You're the neighbor. Maybe you're watching Jeopardy. Who knows? And all of a sudden, wah, 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 wah. And then a couple minutes before that, you hear pop. You hear it coming from the neighbor's house. Pop.
Yeah.
Pop,
Yeah. The guy who's got all the junk in his yard.
You're like, the heck is this? Just like 2 weeks ago, you saw him pull up with 3 trucks and hauling things underneath blankets inside the house. Like,
I feel like, what's this darn science hillbilly up to now?
like you're sitting there and you're going, what is going on with this guy? Like, what is happening? Why is he doing this? Like, what's going on?
Well, I'd be trying to join his gang. Like, I'm gonna hang around the Vortex. If my power's gonna go out, I get to use the Vortex too.
But think about it. This is how I picture it. And it's probably not the way it works. Okay. I picture going outside trying to figure out where this poppins come from, and I see a bright light emitting from one of his windows as this is going on.
Yeah, and that noise, wow, wow, wow.
Yeah, wow. Because this 8 foot tall, like this has to be loud.
Yeah. Oh, the light that would give off too.
I would assume.
Oh,
it would have to be bright. Because think about it, when it gets to the top, it's like wow, 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 and then it comes back down.
Well, even the little ones are real bright.
Oh, yeah. Think about one 8 foot tall now.
Yeah. Holy moly. His neighbor must be oblivious to the world.
They would have to be.
Yeah. Or maybe he's not maybe he's at the end of a block. And that side's just facing, I don't know. Where was this again?
They said, or you know what? I don't think we've said yet. It's further in the story where I think it's Kansas, I think.
Oh, okay. So there's just, what do I know about Kansas? Plains, dust, and tornadoes on that side of the house.
Solid.
It's all there is over there. So his only neighbor's like Toto or whatever.
Missouri. It's like one of those states. I bet I can look it up. Hold on.
Yeah.
Let me look it up real quick.
I'm sorry if you're in Kansas. I just don't know anything about Kansas other than Wizard of Oz stuff.
That's a complete lie. Nick knew it exactly. It was in Missouri, sorry. Stansbury, Missouri.
Well, I know even less about that, so.
Oh, you Missouri peeps, sorry.
Yeah, there's woods on the other side of him. Yeah.
That's why we have podcasts. We're not expected to be smart, okay?
So the next time someone brings up places, they're going to be like, oh, have you ever heard of Missouri? And I'm like, yeah, a lot of electricity over there.
A lot of electricity. A lot of Jacob ladders is what I've heard.
I've heard it's got the world's biggest Jacob ladder. Maybe they've got tons of them. I don't know.
Bar none, the largest Jacob's ladder. Bar none.
Yeah, some vortexes over there. It's crazy.
So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, they're debating on what to throw in. And my guess is he's probably thrown some stuff in. They've watched it and they're like, man, we need to find something to throw in there.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you hear knock, 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 knock. Now the question is, who do you think's at the door?
The guy we're throwing into the vortex. No, I'm just kidding. I think the power man.
Because there's a lot of different options here. Could be a neighbor.
Yeah.
Could be, I mean, honestly, anyone could be the power man, like you mentioned.
Yeah. I mean, they've run over up $1 million bill in 2 days. So
it might be questionable to a power company, right?
yeah. I mean, could be police. They just did a felony there.
Multiple felonies.
Yeah. Multiple, I guess.
Multiple people did felonies if that's the case.
Well, I would count them as a 6-pack. So it's one felony of a 6-pack.
But the worst part is, let's say it was the police.
Right.
All your friends are there now around the things that they've stolen.
Hey.
Could you imagine?
Well, it would be hard to defend yourself in court after that, I think.
Could you see it now? All of a sudden, you're sitting there, you hear a knock at the door, you go to the door and it's police, and you're like, man, I don't know who this guy is. That's funny. All these trucks is parked out front. Kind of fits the description of the trucks that there was some Transformers that's apparently missing. Would you know anything about that? No, sir, officer. No clue.
All right, fellas, everyone into the Vortex before the cops get back here.
That's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. That's driving me nuts. It's got to be the Power Man. Got to be the Power Man.
Power Man. Do you want to hear who it is?
Yeah, I do.
As Michael opened the door, he was met not by friends or curious onlookers, but by the stern faces of 8 deputies, their presence a silent testament to the gravity of the situation unfolding. The officer leading the group presented a search warrant, a tangible symbol of the law reaching into the heart of Markham's world of experimentation. The complaints from Markham's neighbors had sparked an investigation, a series of reports detailing the strange occurrences and unusual activities surrounding his home had not gone unnoticed. It was the correlation between these reports and the power company's account of missing equipment that sealed Markham's fate. The pieces of the puzzle fit too neatly together, painting a picture of ambition that had overstepped the bounds of legality. Markham's aspirations, his pursuit of the unknown through his makeshift time machine, were abruptly halted. The law had caught up with him, and the consequences were immediate. For the theft of the Transformers and the unauthorized consumption of power, which had led to widespread brownouts, Markham faced the stark reality of incarceration. Sentenced to 60 days in jail and 5 years of probation, the repercussions of his actions transcended the confines of a cell. While behind bars, Markham's mind raced with thoughts of efficiency and improvement ways to refine his machine to continue his quest despite the obstacles. Yet the reality of his situation was inescapable. The loss of his home, his job, and his standing in the community marked a dramatic fall from grace. Markham had become a pariah, his name synonymous with the disturbances that had plagued the town. In the solitude of his cell, it would have been easy for Markham to view this as the end of his journey, the closing chapter of his foray into the realms of time and space. Or was it?
It was the fuzz. It was a combination, really, of all the problems we pointed out.
Oh, man, that was good. To all the police officers out there, I apologize for the way Nick just spoke of you guys.
I don't think that's a derogatory term. The fuzz.
I don't know. Listen,
I don't think so.
If you pull the two of us over, Nick is the one that said that. I just laughed. I laugh at anything. I'm an idiot. Okay.
Hey, I like these guys just fine. I got no problem with them.
I mean, I guess in the old days we used to call radar detectors fuzz detectors. So.
Oh well, now you said it.
Or
now
fuzz busters.
We're both in trouble now. But you know what? We've not taken any Transformers, so we're going to be okay.
We have not taken Transformers. Now, who would have thunk? Who would have thunk? Now, this is why I was bringing these questions up. Let's say you're the buddies.
Right.
You're the buddies. You helped them. And probably when you did this, you said, you know what? I probably shouldn't be doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Couple weeks go by. Nothing really happens. You're like,
wow,
we got away with it.
All's well that ends well.
All is well that ends well. Listen, hey, Michael said he's having a party. We're gonna sit back, have some pizza.
Yep.
We're gonna talk about some stuff. Maybe have a couple beers. You pull the old pickup truck up to the house. You go inside. Hey, Michael's going on. Hey, grab a slice of pizza. Hey, let me show you this thing I made. that you guys help me with these Transformers on. We got to wait till Bill comes over. Yeah, you're right. We'll wait till Bill gets here. Bill gets there. You know, you had a couple pieces of pizza. Bill steps in. Oh, and there's Seth. Seth helped us.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys. Hey, look at this. Hey, watch these screws.
So was this thing, in your scenario, was this thing running all along and people were just sort of ignoring it? They're like, oh, that's weird. Anyway.
I mean, I would assume.
Like it's there.
They helped him steal the freaking thing. Oh, I'm sure he started it after they had the pizza and the beers and they're hanging around. He's like, hey, do y'all want to see what your labor of love did? Check this out. Let me start these laser beams up. All of a sudden, the neighbor's sitting over there going, criminy sakes again. It's freaking Tuesday.
It might have not burnt out the power, but it definitely dimmed the lights in the whole town when you turned it on.
Dimmed the lights out a little bit.
Like guaranteed, right?
Oh, for sure. So you got these buddies, they're drinking. Probably like you said, they're throwing their beer cans in there.
Yeah.
It's gone. They're like, where the heck does that go? I don't know, man. Someone's at the door. Did you order another thing of pizzas? Nope. Then they open the door and there's 8 deputies out there, 8 of them with a search warrant for the very thing that you helped your buddy steal.
So here's where I'm getting a little into the realm of disbelief a little bit. So you've got your Vortex humping over here. The cops come in. Wouldn't you show it to them? Be like, I shouldn't get in trouble because I've made this awesome Vortex. Like, this is science, not crime.
Well, here's the problem. Maybe if it's like a officer, but when there's 8 and one's got their hand on the other one's shoulder and he's got his hand on the other one's shoulder, and then they got the guns pointed in with the flashlights on them, looking for at least $100,000 worth of Transformers. I don't know if I'd be like, hey guys, come in. Hey, we've got pizzas. We've got some beers. Hey, I created this device. Don't ask me where I got all the components at. I'm pretty sure that's why you're here, but let's not talk about that right now. I want to show you. Listen, you guys have big guns. Let's throw them inside this thing and see where they go to. I bet they're not falling for this, Nick. I'm just saying.
I mean, seeing is believing. You'd be like, this is like, I didn't steal these to sell them. I'm stealing them to make this Vortex. Woo.
Well, here's my favorite part of this story, Nick.
Okay.
I didn't put this in the narration, so I'm gonna add it right here.
All right.
There's some things I've not added. We're gonna add as we go along because I wanted the narration to be less than 30 minutes.
Right.
So when him and Art Bell were talking back and forth, and Art's like, so you used all 6? And he goes, well, no. And he goes, well, how many did you use? And he goes, well, I didn't need all 6. And Art goes, well, how many did you need? And he said, I mean, I probably could have got away with like 2, but I figured I was already there. I might as well just pick up the rest.
May as well.
But if it was 2, that would have been 2 of your friends that got in trouble. Now we've got 3 of your friends.
Right.
So now everyone that helped you commit this crime is also sitting around this device while the neighbors is talking about all this stuff going on. And you got a search warrant for the very things with the very people that was there hanging out.
I kind of was thinking like they throw these beer cans and all this trash into the Vortex. It's appearing in a neighbor's house. It's like,
good to you, man.
That's why he's so upset.
Like, why is there all these beer cans in here? God dang. Baby, did I tell you stop drinking? It's Tuesday, for goodness sakes. Not even close to the weekend.
Luckily, it was Ozzy Osbourne's house. So he didn't notice all these cans arriving. He didn't know where they came from.
Ozzy's like, Cheryl, did I drink this? When
She's
did I buy this cheap stuff?
Ozzy, who's the beer thief? It's you. You're the beer thief.
You're the beer thief, Ozzy. It's a crazy story when you think about it.
Yeah.
The fact that all of this stuff happens. Friends are at the wrong place at the wrong time. They thought they got away with it. Cops are there. Cops bust you. Now you're sitting in jail.
Yeah. I bet they were watching the house, by the way. I don't think it's a coincidence that they all happened to be there.
It's very possible they was watching it because, listen, they had search warrants. You know that's not a quick process.
No. They were waiting.
They had an idea put in place. Now, here's my favorite part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
He's in jail.
Yep.
I would be like, man, I did something really dumb. I probably shouldn't have done that. Not him. He's like, you know what? I can make this better.
Yeah. He's like, I buried the rest of the
Transformers.
Transformers. Yeah. The rest of them I've hidden for when I get out of jail.
Well, the cool thing about him being in jail and doing such a crazy thing,
mm-hmm.
like most things, when things are super crazy, the news gets a hold of it.
Right. As it does.
As I would assume it would do, right?
Yep.
You're sitting in the news agency, you're getting these crime notices, and you're like,
mm-hmm.
why would somebody steal 6 Transformers that weigh 300 pounds each? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why would someone do that? So you contact the police department. You go, is this really 6, or did he maybe just steal 1? Maybe he thought he could sell. Nope, he stole all 6. He was making a time machine. A time machine?
Hey, you don't hear that every day.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what he said. He's in a cell right now making diagrams of how he wants to make the next one. And the news goes, this is it. Because back then, that's crazy news, right? Like, that's the Esquire magazine. Or
back then, what was it? That's crazy now.
What was the name of that magazine? Esquire was clothing, right? Esquire was clothing.
That's like fashion.
Yeah, that's fashion.
We had the Weekly World News, the Inquirer.
We had that. Inquirer, that's it.
There we go.
They're like, this is inquiry news. We can put it in the regular. Mm-hmm. So this one probably newspaper in Missouri probably prints this, and then it hits syndicate. And now all these other news agency goes, a man's making a time machine. What? What's going on? What is that all about? So
it's going to be really hard for him to get out on parole because he's got all these diagrams in his cell.
Correct. Correct. So they've got all this stuff going on. They're like, man, that's wild. So he kind of becomes somewhat of an important person in jail.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, someone gets a newspaper clipping faxed to him.
Oh.
And that's where this entire story starts.
So that person must have been Art Bell.
Must have been Art Bell. Are you ready for this next section, Nick?
I am ready.
Last week, yes, it was Saturday morning. I read you a story that was faxed to me by somebody in Columbia, Missouri, and I thought it incredible. The story is entitled "Kansas City Man Tries to Build Time Machine on Porch."
In the aftermath of Michael Marcum's arrest and the widespread news of his daring experiments, the story caught the attention of Art Bell, the legendary radio host known for exploring the fringes of science, the paranormal, and unexplained phenomena. Bell, ever on the lookout for intriguing narratives that captivated his vast audience, recognized the potential in Marcum's story, a tale of ambition, science, and the law intersecting in unexpected ways. Determined to get to the bottom of the saga, Bell embarked on a quest to find Michael Marcum. This wasn't just another story for Bell. It was a testament to the very essence of human curiosity and the relentless pursuit of understanding, themes that resonated deeply with both him and his listeners. Bell's journey to locate Marcum was fraught with challenges. Information was scarce, and Marcum, fresh from his legal entanglements and societal fallout, had become something of an enigma. Bell leveraged his extensive network of contacts, reaching out to listeners, fellow researchers, and anyone who might have a lead on Marcum's whereabouts. He knew that Marcum's insights and first-hand account of his experiments could provide invaluable content for his show, offering a rare glimpse into the mind of someone who dared to dream beyond the conventional bounds of science. As Bell pieced together the puzzle, his determination only grew. He was not just chasing a story. He was pursuing a narrative that touched upon the core themes of exploration and discovery that had defined his career. Finally, after weeks of searching, following leads, and engaging with his dedicated audience, Bell managed to establish contact with Markham.
Michael, are you there?
Yeah.
Good. Why did this begin in the first place? What were you trying to do in the first place?
Originally I just set out to make a fancy Jacob's ladder, and this was like what it turned out to be. I don't know, I just got the notion to throw a screw in it to see like what it did, because I never saw anything like that before. And
So,
kind of like testing it.
Yeah, a screw, I guess, would be as good as anything else.
Yeah.
Mine might do that, too. All right, so you threw a screw into the
Circular thing. Yeah.
circular area.
Yeah, it's like I've talked to a couple of physicists. They call it a vortex, but did one or two things. It went half a second into the future, and then I caught up with it, or I made like a real intense magnetic field.
Just hearing that Art Bell music gets me pumped up. I love that guy.
Nick was ready to go, baby.
Dun, 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 dun. Love
That's
it.
such a good. He had that entire thing mastered, man.
Oh yeah.
He had the stories down.
Well, you do it as long as he did. You learn a thing or two, I imagine.
I guarantee the thousands and tens of thousands of stories that came.
Oh yeah.
All of that.
Yeah, and he sifted through them all himself.
Correct. And I mean, think about it. He got this newspaper clipping and he searched this guy down.
Yep.
Markham didn't call him.
Nope.
He found Markham. Michael Markham.
Art Bell is a dog with a bone. He wants a story, he'll get it.
Absolutely, he will. I don't know. I find it interesting. So he's sitting in this sale, right?
Mm-hmm.
Becomes somewhat of a celebrity. He gets out.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's probably, think about it. Now at this point, he's lost his job. He's lost his house because he's in jail for 60 days. It was just him.
Oh yeah.
Lost his Transformers.
Mm-hmm.
Lost the vast majority of his stuff is probably gone at this point.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, what do I even do? I don't even know what to do at this point. And then all of a sudden you have Art Bell calling you.
Yeah.
I want to tell your story live on the air. So as everyone can obviously tell, I'm using little excerpts from the interview. That first interview with him was an hour and a half long.
Wow.
So,
how many did they have?
3.
Nice.
3 interviews. The first one was an hour and a half. The second one was a little over an hour. And the third one was 2.5 hours.
Wow. They really got into it there.
So all together about 5 hours of Markham. And I'm going to send you the links to all 3 of them tonight, Nick. So you've got all 3.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm going to listen to him tonight for sure. I'm not even waiting.
So he's talking to Art Bell. And in the very first one, he's just trying to figure out what's going on. He's like, what was you trying to create? And you can kind of hear this guy has that intelligence to him. Like you can hear how smart he is.
Yeah. He seems super modest though.
I think he's just a normal dude that just wanted to experiment. It's honestly what I think it was.
Yeah. Seems like it.
That's all it was. He wasn't interested in, I don't even think he was wanting to break the law. It was just out of necessity that he had to.
Yeah. He just wanted to see what would happen. He's got that curiosity.
Correct. Now, anyone who's not well versed with Art Bell, as you know, there are callers that call in to Art Bell while he has these interviews going on. And they have an opportunity to talk to the person that Art Bell has on the show.
Right. That's really cool too.
Which is really cool. So these people are calling in and some of them's like, there's a lady and she's like, can't believe you've got this guy on. Like he's explaining how to do this dangerous stuff. How in the world are you going to do that? And she's chastising.
Right.
Literally getting underneath Art Bell. And Art Bell's like, listen, I don't think anyone's going to listen to this and be like, hey, I want to build a time machine. Right. And I'm sure even Michael will tell you this is dangerous. Don't do it.
Oh, yeah.
So obviously they're getting into it a little bit, Art Bell and that lady. But then there's other people that's like, I'm completely fascinated by this.
Oh, yeah. Count me in on that group there. I am fascinated.
Oh, for sure. And there's some people that they're skeptics. They're like, this guy is a whack job, or he's a wackadoodle, or this is all out of the pages of fiction.
I don't care if it is or it isn't. Keep experimenting. Like, find some stuff out. Like, show us some cool Vortex stuff.
Well, I think what happened is there's some people that thinks that the entire thing was made up.
Oh.
So like the news made it up. They found this guinea pig. Like maybe he wasn't really arrested. Maybe all these things didn't happen. You know, it's just all fictional. And there was some people that called in and they were like, I don't think this really happened, and yada, yada, et cetera, et cetera.
Well,
so
maybe, you know,
which is possible.
Yeah. Like we don't know for sure anything.
We don't, because listen, at the end of the day, there's people that's going to talk. There's people that's not going to talk. We know this. This is life.
Yep. That's right. And
But
I want to hear stories. I don't care.
Exactly.
If it's made up, if it's not made up, I'm never going to know for sure.
Oh,
but let's hear those stories, right?
Exactly. And that's the thing. You got to kind of understand exactly in this process where you're at. Is it going to be a case where, let's say it's not true.
Right.
Are you not enjoying the story?
I sure as heck am.
It's sci-fi.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let's say it is true. Now we have an opportunity to look at this as in, clearly this thing has happened.
Right.
Why did it happen? And why is no one else talking about this? Because a lot of times when people come up with these concepts and ideas, they disappear, Nick.
Right. This would be an easy one to test, I would think. Right?
I mean, technically we have tested it, because how did the Philadelphia project work?
Yeah, I suppose so.
This is kind of the same concept that the military was working on supposedly in the Philadelphia project.
Yeah, same thing with the Montauk project, or similar stuff.
Correct.
Because these three things are all interconnected.
They're all interconnected. Which is why we have to do one on the Philadelphia project.
Yeah.
That needs to be one of our goals.
We really do need to. And it's going to be a 42-parter. No, just kidding.
So I think in this entire process, the only thing here in interview 1 that doesn't necessarily fit is people don't know if this is made up. They don't know if it's real. It's not. They don't know if it's fake.
Yeah.
Like the guy sounds smart. Clearly Art Bell's just trying to tell the story. Maybe Art Bell's in on it. We don't know.
Yeah. Art Bell just lets him tell the story. He asks his questions. I don't think Art Bell was like deciding real, not real. He was just like, tell me the story. I'm going to ask questions. We'll see where this goes.
What if I told you that somebody called in that could validify the story a little bit?
Well, now that would be interesting.
That would be interesting. Would you like to see who that caller is?
I sure would. That's fascinating.
So I say this every single time. I'm sorry. Listen, hey, you're going to appreciate the fact that I didn't make this into one podcast. You're going to be thankful, because you would have had to take a potty break. Okay. You're probably thinking about peeing right now. Let's be honest. I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you, Jim. Bill, I see you. I see you, Bill and Jim. You gotta go pee. You gotta pee. Listen,
doing you a favor here.
Go pee. But after I say this, you know, there's a Bill and a Jim going, How'd he know? It's crazy.
Should have been like really specific and used a last name too.
How crazy would that be if they was watching? They'd be like, son of a gun.
They got me.
Anyway, the second part of this, Nick and I have already recorded it. It gets crazy. We say this every time.
Yeah.
But listen, I feel like the second half is always better than the first. That doesn't mean don't ever watch the first half. But the second part's where it gets
we do
juicy.
that on purpose. That's not accidental. Like that's...
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the end of the story is always the best part of the story anyway, because it kind of ties a little bow around the entire thing. But at the end of part 2, I can tell you that there's something that I think will shock everybody.
Shock and awe.
And that's the intent. Shock and awe.
Oh yeah, it's I can't even express myself. I'm still at a loss for words. So
you You will not want to miss it.
No.
You will not want to miss it. But obviously, we want to thank everyone for stopping by. If you've not rated us wherever you listen to our podcast at, please rate us. We would definitely appreciate that. Also, if you're on the YouTube machine, a thumbs up would be very much appreciated. And if you've not subscribed to the channel, what you doggone waiting on? Hit that doggone subscribe button. Bill, I know you didn't subscribe. I looked.
Yeah,
I just looked a couple minutes ago.
You're stealing entertainment.
And second off, you're still on Santa's naughty list. I'm just saying, listen, I don't know what you did. He didn't tell me all that. Some things is controversial, and I'm not trying to put air your grievances out online. But I will if you don't hit the subscribe button. Next week, if you don't hit subscribe, I'm telling everybody.
All your secrets.
But until we see you in the next one, goodbye.
Bye-bye, Bill, Jim.